The single dad saw deaf twins ignored by everyone. Then he signed, "Hello." The rain came down in a cold, steady drizzle, painting the sidewalks in gray and blurring the city in a quiet haze. Stephen Carter, 38, stood beneath the cracked overhang at the bus stop, one hand on his son Theo's shoulder, the other gripping a folded umbrella. Theo, 8 years old, leaned close to his father, silent as always. His small hands clutched a spiral notebook and a stubby pencil, his voice in a world that had taken the real one away. Across the street, beneath the awning of a supermarket, two small figures huddled near the wall. Stephen noticed them when Theo gently tugged his sleeve and pointed. The twins looked about 6 years old, matching pink dresses beneath thin jackets. Their damp shoes puddled beneath them, tiny hands pressed close to their chests as they waved at strangers passing by. No one stopped. People glanced, frowned, looked away. One woman shook her head. A man gave a sympathetic smile and kept walking. The children kept signing, desperately. Their faces were pale, eyes wide with fear. The boy's lip trembled. The girl's cheeks were streaked with tears. They were trying to say something, anything, but the world passed them by like they were invisible. Stephen frowned, heart tightening. He stepped off the curb, Theo trailing behind him, and crossed the slick street with cautious steps. When he reached the edge of the awning, he crouched slowly, hands visible, and looked up at them gently. Then, in clear, steady American Sign Language, he signed, "Hello, are you okay?" The twins froze. The girl blinked. The boy's jaw dropped slightly. Their eyes widened as if he had just spoken light into their darkness. They looked at each other, then back at Stephen, and in a rush of motion, they nodded, vigorous, trembling nods. Stephen smiled softly and signed again, slower this time. "My name is Stephen. This is my son. His name is Theo." The girl hesitated, then signed back, her hand still shaking. "Lily." The boy followed. "Rowan." Suddenly, footsteps. From behind, sharp and fast. A woman's heels clacked against the wet pavement. She came into view like a gust of wind, tall, composed, but frantic beneath the surface. Platinum blonde hair twisted into a loose bun, beige trench coat soaked at the hem. Her breath caught in her throat as she saw the scene, her two children crouched next to a strange man. "Get away from them," she snapped, her voice edged with panic. She rushed forward, pulling the children behind her in one swift motion. Her arms encircled them tightly, her posture a wall of protection. Her sharp blue eyes locked on Stephen with suspicion and fire. Stephen stood calmly, keeping his hands raised where she could see them. Then, slowly, he began to sign, not to the children but to her. "It's okay." She blinked. Her expression faltered. She looked down at her children, now peeking from behind her coat, their small hands still clinging to her sleeves but no longer afraid. Stephen continued, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you." The woman's arms loosened. Her face softened, but her breath was still shaky. "You know sign language?" she asked, quietly now. Stephen nodded. "My son." He lost his voice. "I had to learn." For a moment, the street noise faded. The woman looked at Theo, who offered a small wave, then back at Stephen. The tension in her shoulders slowly unraveled. "I thought you were hurting them," she said, almost to herself. "I get it," Stephen replied. "You're protecting them. That's what a parent does." Her lips parted as if to say something more, but nothing came. Instead, she pulled Lily and Rowan closer, pressing a kiss to each forehead, her hands still trembling. Her eyes flicked to Stephen again, this time not with suspicion, but with something softer, a mix of apology, gratitude, and quiet disbelief. For the first time, someone had spoken to her children in their language. Someone had seen them, not as problems or burdens or strange, but simply as children. And in the middle of the cold rain, In the hum of a city too busy to care, two deaf children had finally been heard. Their world had shifted, and it all started with a man who simply said, "Hello." The park was quiet that morning, tucked away from the noise of the city. Angela Goldwyn stood under a willow tree, adjusting the collar of her beige coat while keeping watch on her children. Lily and Rowan, in soft gray jackets over their pink dresses, were playing nearby. She had chosen this corner carefully, isolated, calm, away from curious eyes and fresh gossip. Since the incident outside the supermarket, the tabloids had swirled. Grainy photos had surfaced. Angela Goldwyn, heiress, crying in the rain, a rugged man crouching beside her children. Whispers followed, but Angela ignored them. All that mattered now was her daughter's peace. Lily and Rowan crouched near the sandbox, tracing shapes into the dirt. Angela, ever vigilant, noted the stiffness in their shoulders when a dog barked too close or a jogger passed too fast. She knew the signs. Then suddenly, they straightened. Their heads turned sharply toward the slide on the other end of the playground. Without warning, they ran. "Lily! Rowan!" Angela called out, startled. But the girls didn't slow down. Their shoes kicked up gravel as they dashed across the playground. Angela followed and froze. Standing by the slide, laughing softly, was Stephen Carter. His son Theo, halfway up the ladder, grinned down at him. Stephen looked up just in time to see the girls racing toward him. His face lit up. They threw themselves into his arms like they'd known him forever. Lily signed rapidly, her hands flying. Rowan followed, grinning as he added his own. Stephen crouched, responding with warmth and ease. Theo waved shyly, notebook clutched in one hand. Angela walked slowly toward them, her heart thudding. Her daughters had never opened up like this, not to teachers, therapists, even family. Yet here they were, bright-eyed and full of joy. Stephen looked up and smiled. "We meet again." Angela folded her arms, unsure whether to be wary or grateful. "I didn't know you came here." "Routine," he said, brushing a leaf off Theo's hoodie. "It's kind of our favorite spot." Rowan tugged at Stephen's sleeve and pointed to Lily's foot. Her shoelace was loose. Without hesitation, Stephen bent down and tied it, double knotting it. Then he noticed the pink bow on the back of her dress had come undone. He gently retied it, his large hands surprisingly delicate. Angela stood still, something tightening in her throat. Later, Stephen helped all three kids climb the play structure. When Lily slipped near the top, he caught her wrist quickly and steadied her. Then, without a word, he stepped aside and walked over to the bench. Angela watched him take a travel-sized bottle of sanitizer from his pocket and clean his hands. Angela approached. She quietly pulled a napkin from her purse and wiped down the table he was about to sit at. She didn't know why. It simply felt right. They sat together in a silence that wasn't uncomfortable. Angela finally asked, "Where did you learn ASL?" Stephen glanced at Theo. After the fire, he stopped speaking. They weren't sure if he ever would again. I didn't want to wait, so I learned his language. Angela looked at him. "That's beautiful." He shook his head. "It's just what he needed." Angela turned away, blinking quickly. She didn't cry. Not yet. But for the first time in years, she didn't feel entirely alone. Angela invited Stephen and Theo over the following weekend. The townhouse was serene, elegant, with soft cream tones and toys neatly arranged along the walls. Stephen stepped inside cautiously, carrying his backpack of ASL cards. "You can sit anywhere," Angela said softly, brushing a loose strand of platinum hair behind her ear. "Thank you," Stephen replied, signing the same words for the twins. Lily and Rowan hurried over, hands already flying with excited signs. Stephen knelt, smiling. "Slow down, one at a time," he laughed, signing gently. Angela watched from the doorway, arms folded, expression guarded but softening. Midway through their session, A loud slam echoed from upstairs. A gust had blown the balcony door shut. Lily flinched violently. Rowan froze. Angela gasped. "Oh, God. Girls, I'm sorry. It was just the wind. I should have checked." Her voice trembled as she rushed over. The girls clung to her coat, shaking. Stephen crouched beside them, moving slowly. He signed with calm, steady hands. "Safe. You are safe. Nothing bad." Lily peeked over Angela's shoulder. Her breathing slowed. Angela exhaled shakily. "They react like this sometimes," she whispered. "I never know what will trigger it." "You don't have to apologize," Stephen said. "They're doing their best. So are you." Angela glanced at him, almost suspicious of the kindness, but nodded, then motioned him toward the living room. "Thank you for helping them," she said once they sat. "They don't trust easily." "I noticed," Stephen replied. "But they trust you." Angela gave a brittle laugh. "I hope so." He waited, sensing there was more. She stared down at her hands. "Do you know what they used to call me? The Goldwyn Muse, perfect smile, perfect hair. I was on magazine covers more than I was home. You don't seem like someone who misses that." "I don't," she said. "Not anymore." A pause, then a breath. "My ex-husband, Grant, didn't take the diagnosis well. Said the girl's condition ruined his legacy." Stephen frowned. "That's awful." Angela nodded. "He never hit me, just chipped away." Quiet comments. A loud slam echoed from upstairs. A gust had blown the balcony door shut. Lily flinched violently. Rowan froze. Angela gasped. "Oh, God. Girls, I'm sorry. It was just the wind. I should have checked." Her voice trembled as she rushed over. The girls clung to her coat, shaking. Stephen crouched beside them, moving slowly. He signed with calm, steady hands. "Safe. You are safe. Nothing bad." Lily peeked over Angela's shoulder. Her breathing slowed. Angela exhaled shakily. "They react like this sometimes," she whispered. "I never know what will trigger it." "You don't have to apologize," Stephen said. "They're doing their best. So are you." Angela glanced at him, almost suspicious of the kindness, but nodded, then motioned him toward the living room. "Thank you for helping them," she said once they sat. "They don't trust easily." "I noticed," Stephen replied. "But they trust you." Angela gave a brittle laugh. "I hope so." He waited, sensing there was more. She stared down at her hands. "Do you know what they used to call me? The Goldwyn Muse. Perfect smile, perfect hair. I was on magazine covers more than I was home. You don't seem like someone who misses that." "I don't," she said. "Not anymore." A pause, then a breath. "My ex-husband, Grant, didn't take the diagnosis well. Said the girl's condition ruined his legacy." Stephen frowned. "That's awful." Angela nodded. "He never hit me, just chipped away." Quiet comments, subtle control, until I stopped recognizing myself. She looked down. "I left the day he told me to keep the girls out of public view. You did the right thing. I thought the world would understand. Instead, the media made me the villain. Spoiled, ungrateful." Her laugh was soft, tear-stained. "I've never told anyone all this." "Why tell me?" Stephen asked gently. "I don't know," she said. "Maybe because you look at them like they're whole." "They are whole," he said. She stood, busying herself with cushions to avoid the emotion rising in her throat. But as she turned, a white hair clip slipped from her hair and landed near Stephen's foot. "You dropped this," he said. She reached for it, but he already had it. "May I?" She hesitated, then nodded. Stephen stepped closer, brushed a strand behind her ear, and carefully clipped the barrette back into place. His touch was gentle, surprisingly so for hands clearly used to rougher work. Angela stilled. "No one's done that in a long time," she whispered. "You deserve gentleness," he said. Her lips parted, but no words came. A tear slipped down her cheek before she could stop it. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I don't cry." "It's okay," Stephen said quietly. "You're safe too." The words shattered her defenses. Angela pressed her hand to her mouth, shoulders shaking as more tears fell. But she didn't hide, didn't run. Stephen didn't move closer. He simply remained still, present, grounded, offering nothing but patience. For the first time in years, Angela Goldwyn allowed herself to fall apart in front of someone. And for the first time, she felt safe doing so. The park was quiet that afternoon, wrapped in a soft breeze and golden light. A perfect Saturday. Stephen and Theo arrived first, carrying a modest picnic basket and a folded blanket under Stephen's arm. Theo, silent as always, scribbled something on his small whiteboard and held it up. "Today's a good day." Stephen smiled. "Yeah, kiddo, it really is." Moments later, Angela approached, holding hands with Lily and Rowan. The twins wore matching pink dresses with soft gray cardigans. Angela's golden hair was pinned loosely today, sunglasses perched in her hair. "Hi," she greeted, her voice gentle but unsure. Stephen stood and gave a small nod. "Glad you could come." As soon as the twins saw Theo, they ran over, signing excitedly. Lily signed. "You came. We missed you." Rowan signed. "Want to play Rock Mountain?" Pointing toward a pile of large boulders at the edge of the park. Theo wrote, "Only if you promise not to fall." Angela chuckled softly under her breath. "They really like him." "They like each other," Stephen said, watching the trio dash toward the rocks. "Even if they speak different languages." Angela spread the blanket next to him. "That's the strange part, isn't it? They don't share a language, but they do understand each other." "That's kids," Stephen said. "They don't judge communication the way adults do. They're just trying to connect." Angela folded her hands in her lap, eyes fixed on the children. "Your son is kind." "So are yours," Stephen replied. She didn't respond, but her lips lifted faintly. Minutes passed. Laughter echoed. Hands flew in the air. Theo's whiteboard filled and erased over and over. Then a sharp sound sliced through the peace. Thud. Rowan had slipped from the edge of a boulder, landing hard on the grass below. Angela gasped and stood up, but Stephen was already moving. He reached Rowan in seconds, crouched low, checking his knees and elbows. "You're okay," Stephen signed calmly. "No blood. Nothing broken." Rowan's eyes brimmed with tears but stayed focused on Stephen's hands. Angela stood frozen a few feet away, her heart pounding. Stephen picked Rowan up gently, hugging him without hesitation. "Just scared, right?" he signed. Rowan nodded, wiping his nose on Stephen's shoulder. Angela's breath hitched at the sight, that level of patience, that warmth, with her child. She hadn't asked for it, but somehow it felt like he'd always known how. They returned to the blanket, Rowan clinging tightly to Mr. Buttons now pulled from his backpack. Theo handed him the whiteboard. "Falling doesn't make you weak. It means you're brave for trying." Rowan smiled. Lunch followed. Stephen unwrapped homemade sandwiches and passed around juice boxes. Angela sat politely, but hesitated when handed a small plastic container of rice and grilled chicken. She stared at it a moment too long. Stephen noticed. "Not fancy enough." Angela blinked. "No, I'm not used to this kind of thing." Stephen cracked the lid open, the scent warm and peppery. "Try it. Theo says it tastes like courage." Angela laughed before she could stop herself. A real laugh, not the measured, social kind, but something quick and surprised. "Courage, huh?" Theo nodded firmly. She took a bite, and to her own surprise, liked it. After lunch, the kids resumed playing, a gentle rhythm returning. Angela leaned back, propping herself up on one elbow. Her eyes drifted to Stephen. "You're different," she said quietly. "How so?" "You don't talk much, but when you do, you mean it." That's rare." Stephen looked down, modest as always. "Words only matter when they're true." She tilted her head. "You really believe that?" "Yeah," he said. "Especially with kids like ours. They read between the lines better than most adults." Angela looked toward Lily and Rowan, then at Theo. And then she looked at Stephen. "They trust you," she said. "I trust them too," Stephen replied. Her lips parted slightly, an almost smile hovering there. Then she nodded. "Thank you." "For today," Stephen nodded back. "No problem. We'll do it again." Angela didn't say yes. But she didn't say no, either. And for the first time in years, she felt like she'd spent a day under a sky where nothing was expected except honesty. The first photo hit the tabloids on a Tuesday morning. A blurry image of Angela Goldwyn kneeling beside Stephen Carter at the park, smiling as their children played together in the background. The headline was worse. "Harris rebounds with mystery man. Meet the bodyguard turning heads." By evening, it was everywhere. Commentators on talk shows speculated. Blogs dissected his clothing, her expression, their body language. No one mentioned Lily or Rowan's laughter, or Theo's quiet joy. Just rumors, wealth, and gossip. Angela stood in the kitchen, phone in hand, scrolling in silence. Her cheeks burned. Stephen's name was being dragged into something he never asked for. A knock shattered the tension. Loud, sharp, uninvited. She opened the door, and there he was. Grant Goldwyn, dressed in a tailored navy suit, gold watch glinting on his wrist. His smile was practiced, but his eyes cold as ice. "Angela," he said smoothly, "you've been busy." Angela instinctively stepped in front of the twins, who peeked from behind her legs. "Why are you here?" she asked. "To remind you," he said, walking past her into the foyer uninvited, "that your actions have consequences." She followed him, heart racing. "You don't live here anymore." "No," Grant said, glancing at the minimalist decor. "But our children do, and from what I've seen, you're letting some blue-collar babysitter with emotional baggage into their lives." Angela's voice rose. "His name is Stephen, and he understands Lily and Rowan better than you ever have." Grant raised an eyebrow. "Because he learned to wiggle his fingers and feed them sandwiches? Come on, Angela. You're smarter than this." She glared at him. "Get out." But Grant wasn't finished. He straightened his cuffs slowly, deliberately. "You think a judge will overlook this? A single mother, mentally unstable by public record, inviting a stranger into her children's lives? I'll have full custody by the end of the month." Angela's breath caught. "You wouldn't." "I have the money, the lawyers, the narrative," he said coldly. "You have nothing but sentiment." He turned to go, then paused. "Choose wisely, Angela. Your fairy tale doesn't end well." The door slammed behind him. Angela dropped to her knees beside the twins, her hands trembling. Lily was crying silently, clutching Mr. Buttons. Rowan's lip trembled. "Mama," Lily signed. "What's happening?" Angela forced a smile. "Nothing, baby. Just a grown-up argument." But her fingers shook too much to sign back clearly. That night, Stephen knocked softly on the back door. He held a small wooden puzzle box for Rowan, and Theo waited quietly in the car. Angela opened it slowly, eyes wide and red-rimmed. "Hey," Stephen said, "I heard about the article." She nodded, her voice thin. "It's worse than that." She let him in and closed the door behind them. The twins were asleep, finally, upstairs. The house was heavy with fear. Stephen sat on the edge of the couch. "Tell me." "He's trying to take them from me," she whispered. "He's using everything, my past, the press, even you." Stephen's jaw clenched. "Let him. I'll testify. I'll tell them what kind of mother you are." Angela shook her head. "You don't understand. He doesn't fight fair. He'll destroy you, Stephen. He'll find your weakest spot and twist until it breaks." "I'm not afraid of him." "I am," she shouted, then covered her mouth, horrified by the volume. "I'm sorry. I can't lose them." Stephen stood, heart pounding. "So what? You want me to disappear?" Angela didn't speak for a long time. Then, barely above a whisper, "I want to keep you safe." He swallowed hard. She stepped closer, but didn't touch him. Her eyes searched his. "You've given us so much peace, Stephen. But if staying means risking your future, I can't ask that of you." He looked down, then nodded once. No anger, no guilt, just quiet understanding. He left that night with no promises, just the sound of her voice echoing behind him like a door closing on something that never got to begin. Angela stood at the window long after the taillights faded, one hand on the glass, whispering to herself, "I'm sorry." And in the silence of that moment, peace cracked, not with a scream, but with a whisper of goodbye. Stephen didn't return. Not to the park, not to the bookstore where they used to meet, not to the quiet sidewalk where Lily and Rowan would run to greet him with open arms. He had understood what Angela asked that night, not in words, but in fear, and so he stepped back. No phone calls, no visits, no contact. He went to work, cooked simple meals, sat beside Theo as he did homework in silence. But the spark that used to light up his son's face had dimmed. One afternoon, Theo wrote something on his small whiteboard and slid it across the table. "Can I still see Lily and Rowan?" Stephen looked at him, then slowly shook his head. "Not right now, buddy." Theo stared at the board, then wiped it clean with the sleeve of his shirt. Angela tried to fill the silence at home. She baked with the kids, took them to the library, even brought in a music therapist who worked with vibrations so the twins could feel rhythm through their hands. But nothing helped. The twins didn't laugh. Not like before. Every night, Lily asked the same thing in soft, hopeful signs. "Where's Mr. Stephen?" And every night, Angela answered with a weak smile. "He's okay, sweetheart. He's just busy." But she couldn't lie to herself anymore. The house was quieter without him, but not in the peaceful way. It was an emptiness, a silence that echoed too loudly in every hallway. Then the legal envelope arrived. Thick, heavy, marked urgent. Grant was filing for full custody. His lawyer's argument was simple and brutal. Angela was emotionally unstable, exposed the children to inappropriate male figures, and lacked the structure a high-profile family like the Goldwins required. Angela sat on the edge of her bed that night, the unopened folder in her lap. Across the room, Lily and Rowan slept soundly in their shared bed, arms tangled, Mr. Buttons squished between them. She stared at their faces, so peaceful, so small, and she saw it clearly. They had only truly been themselves, laughing, safe, expressive, when Stephen was near, when Theo sat beside them, when someone saw them not as problems to manage, but people to love. She looked down at the custody papers. Her fingers trembled. Her eyes burned. No, she wasn't going to let fear make her decisions anymore. Angela stood, walked into the bathroom, and splashed cold water on her face. She stared at the woman in the mirror, the one with perfect hair, expensive moisturizer, a name that once graced magazine covers. And then she whispered to her reflection. He made them feel seen. I will not choose silence over that. The next morning, she met with her lawyer and refused to settle. I want sole custody, she said, and I want it written down that my children have the right to maintain relationships with anyone who brings them peace. Her lawyer blinked. You mean, Mr. Carter? Angela nodded. I mean, Stephen. Yes. Later that night, after the twins had gone to sleep, she stood by the window and looked out at the city lights. She thought of his quiet hands, fixing Lily's shoelaces, his steady arms, catching Rowan when he fell, his calm voice, signing bedtime stories alongside Theo. She had pushed him away to protect him, but in doing so, She had broken something irreplaceable in her children. No more. Angela placed her hand gently against the glass, eyes closed, heart steady. Tomorrow, she would go find him. Not to beg, not to explain, but to ask, simply and honestly, please come back. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is not run from the storm, but choose, finally, to walk toward the light. It was late afternoon when Stephen heard the knock. Not the kind of polite, tentative knock of a neighbor. No, this one was frantic, urgent. 3 short taps, then silence, then again. He opened the door. Angela stood there, breathless. Her blonde hair, usually neat and styled, was windswept and tangled, pieces sticking to her damp cheeks. Her cream coat hung open, revealing a simple sweater and jeans. No makeup, no performance, just her. Behind her, Lily and Rowan clung to each other. As soon as they saw Stephen, their eyes widened. "Mr. Stephen," Lily signed with both hands, her motions quick and desperate. Rowan didn't sign, he simply ran forward, arms wide. Stephen dropped to his knees just in time to catch him. Lily followed, throwing her small frame into the hug. Mr. Buttons, pressed tightly in her grasp, squished between them. Stephen held them both as they trembled against his chest, their small bodies warm with relief. Angela stood a few steps away, frozen, watching the man kneel in the doorway, arms around her children like he'd never let go. "Stephen," she finally said, her voice breaking. He looked up. Her eyes were red, rimmed with tears. She took a shaky step forward. "I know I hurt you," she said softly. "I was scared. I let someone threaten me and push me into silence again, and I pushed you out because I thought I was protecting everyone." Stephen didn't speak. Angela exhaled, wiping her cheek. But the girls. She glanced down at them, still nestled against him. They haven't smiled in weeks. And Theo brought Lily a picture he drew of them all playing. "My daughter cried, holding it." "That is what you gave them." Stephen's throat tightened. He glanced at the picture frame on his wall, a crayon drawing from Theo, taped up proudly. Angela stepped closer. "I don't need a mansion," she said, "or control, or image." She dropped to her knees beside him. "I need someone who sees them, who listens, who never made them feel broken, someone who loves them the way you love Theo." The wind moved through the trees behind them, rustling leaves across the steps. Angela reached out. Her fingers brushed his. "Please," she whispered, voice raw. "Please don't walk away from us." Stephen looked at her, really looked at her. The strong, composed woman from magazine covers was gone. In her place was a mother, undone and brave, choosing love over everything else. He opened his arms. Angela didn't hesitate. She wrapped her arms around him and her daughters, pulling all 4 of them into one tight embrace. For the first time in her life, she felt steady. For the first time since her world cracked apart, Stephen felt whole. Rowan leaned into his chest and signed, "Home?" Stephen smiled gently, nodding. "Yeah," he signed back. "Home." Angela buried her face in his shoulder and let the tears fall, quiet, unashamed, grateful. That moment, on the porch of a modest house, with the sun slipping behind gray clouds, wasn't dramatic. There were no reporters, no applause, no sweeping music. Just a man, a woman, and 3 children tangled between them, all finding their way back to something that felt a lot like family. They didn't need a court to define it, or money to prove it. They had each other, and that, finally, was enough. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows of the small community center. Crayon rainbows and ASL posters lined the walls, including a bold sign, "Every voice matters, even the silent ones." Stephen stood at the front, signing the alphabet. On the floor, Theo, Lily, and Rowan mirrored him with bright grins, their hands moving with playful confidence. Laughter occasionally bubbled out when one of them exaggerated a gesture just to make the others giggle. The room was warm, not from heaters, but from the quiet joy of being seen. Stephen's free ASL class had started with just a few kids, but each week more families came. Parents, teachers, deaf children, hearing children, all eager to connect. Angela stood at the back, arms loosely crossed. Her golden hair flowed over a cream sweater, her expression soft and unguarded. No makeup, no designer labels, just her. When class ended, kids filtered out with parents, waving goodbye. Theo handed out stickers. Rowan showed off his ASL helper badge. Lily patiently taught a toddler how to sign thank you, her face glowing with purpose. Angela waited until the room was empty. Then she approached Stephen. "Full house," she said with a smile. "We might need a second room soon," Stephen replied. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded page. "It went live this morning. I didn't name you, but people will know." He read the headline aloud. "The single dad who taught me to love my children again." His eyes flicked up, searching hers. "I just told the truth," Angela said quietly. There was a pause, comfortable, steady. Theo tugged Stephen's sleeve and pointed outside. Lily and Rowan were already waiting near the door. "Go ahead," Stephen signed. "We'll join you." In the garden behind the center, the sky had turned orange and rose. The kids had arranged folding chairs into a tiny stage. Mr. Buttons sat front row. Lily stepped forward. "We have a surprise," she signed. Rowan pressed play on a speaker. A soft melody began. "Home," the song they'd once listened to together in Stephen's truck. Without a word, the children began signing the lyrics in perfect unison. Angela froze. Each motion carried feeling. Small hands telling a story of fear, of silence, of finally being heard. Stephen stood beside her, hand brushing against hers. When the song ended, Lily signed, "We're not lost anymore." Rowan added, "Because this is home." Theo pointed to them all and signed, "Together." Angela's eyes filled with tears. Stephen gently took her hand. "In a world that didn't listen," he whispered, "we heard them." Angela turned, resting her forehead against his. "You made space for them," she murmured, "and for me." "You gave them courage," he replied, "and gave me something to believe in again." They stood together as the children ran across the grass under the fading light. There was no grand gesture, no declaration, just understanding, a promise. Later that night, the kids lay asleep under blankets, books scattered nearby. Angela and Stephen sat on the porch, watching stars flicker above the trees. She leaned against him. "This isn't what I pictured, but it's what I needed." Stephen squeezed her hand. "Family isn't always what we expect. Sometimes it finds us." The breeze rustled through the leaves, and somewhere in the quiet, something settled. A family, imperfect, chosen, real, whole. If this story touched your heart the way it touched ours, if you believe that kindness can change lives, that family isn't always about blood, but about showing up, listening, and loving anyway, then don't forget to subscribe to Soul Stirring Stories, where every tale is a reminder that humanity still shines. And if you felt something real today, hit that hype button to help us keep sharing stories that matter. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay kind and keep listening.